Yeah, I was listening to, so I've been listening to the compilation all summer long, like all summer long. And I was like, man, I got to ask them about a couple things. And I was like, have we done an interview? I'm sure we've done an interview. And, and we hadn't. So there we go.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting us, because this is a little bit of a nice milestone moment for me, being a fanboy of the podcast.
Oh, so. There you go. Right on. How many years have you guys been doing this? I mean, if I had to guess, I would say maybe 4? 3? 3. Okay.
3. It was like
just over 3, yeah.
Early lockdown kind of, we were talking about getting this going, and then by June, I guess, of 2020, we had the first release out.
Okay, cool. So what does the name of the label mean?
Stereo Ferment. So basically it came about around 2017. I was what was it? Like so I had like a couple of nights, just little DJ nights at small bars, and I was also getting into fermenting foods and kombucha and sauerkraut and stuff like that at the same time. And I just thought it would be cool to have like a little night that was like meet and greet, kind of, bring your fermented foods and listen to some tunes, and
that's awesome.
And then basically, but that was a bit of a failure. Like, I DJ night, like no one brought fermented foods.
Yeah, no.
But that was like the kind of general origin of it, of the name, and then it evolved into like a mixed series that I started doing every month, like just an online, just to kind of be active and
right
and whatnot. And then and then around 20, then turned into a label in 2020 when the pandemic happened.
Like, I would say the name Stereo Ferment definitely describes well the kind of genre fluid vibes that we are going for. Like, anything goes.
Yeah.
So the name luckily represents a lot of things, and has worked from its original origins.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Yeah. I would have never guessed that it comes from like a literal origin. And so but what's funny is that like the amount of labels I've had on the show where I can just kind of like guess my own meaning of their, and oftentimes I'm right and oftentimes I'm wrong. And so, I think it's the kind of thing that can evolve or ferment into a different meaning over the years. So I kind of feel like, like I would have guessed my own meaning to it. But that's cool.
Yeah, well, it definitely, like, it was kind of a play on words with the origin of the night too. It was like fermented foods, mixed cultures.
Isn't there, I mean, it's like, it's a great label, but it's definitely a weird idea for a show. But isn't there a guy who does paninis, like a DJ who does paninis, or a musician on stage?
I know there's, I've heard of like a small night here in Toronto that was actually like a grilled cheese party where they.
I'm pretty sure there's a musician that makes paninis while performing.
Yeah, right. I don't.
Or like 2 decks and 2 panini makers next to them.
Right. Yeah.
All over themselves.
Yeah, that's great. Or like one of those waffle spinners, those like flippers. That would be really good.
Batter all over the place. Yeah.
I talked about this in another episode as an example of consistency, like brand consistency. That's what I want to ask you about, like the summer compilations that you guys have done for a couple of years, Fermented Grooves. I love these. And I mean, I think for me, I think the first one I just checked out naturally. And then last summer's was one was like the soundtrack of my summer. And then this summer I've just been putting on the new one. My kids love that. Speaking of fermented, my kids love that Fly in the Soup track.
Nice.
But what's interesting is that like, I think when you dropped this one, or I probably had been anticipating it because I was thinking about last year's, and I had been anticipating the new one just because I felt like I needed it. It was something that I could listen to, and it's long too, so it lasts for the summer. But there's this consistency to like to what you do, specifically those summer compilations, that like now come like end of June next year, I'm going to be expecting that. And I think that's no pressure, but I think that's a very healthy place to get where your fans are expecting something from you. So this consistency that you have to your sound and also to your artwork and your graphics, can you talk to me about those and how do you execute those things consistently and I assume intentionally?
Yeah, so I guess to start with like the artwork, the one of the main reasons I started the label was to kind of have everything all encompassing in like the crafts that I practice, you know, like design and illustration and music. And because before that I was like super like spread super thin with different things, and it just seemed like a good way to kind of make it all cohesive. So I was like, okay, I can have this outlet, do like my design, illustration stuff, and, you know, do the music. So that's just kind of like a natural kind of product of that, I guess, like my style and having that thing. And then in terms of like consistency and sound, that's kind of where the relationship with Brad comes in. And
like, we like met through that similar love of like various, you know, crate digging kind of like music from around the world. And then I guess through us and through friends of ours that were doing similar things, we've had a sort of a consistent roster of people that have a few people have been on every compilation so far.
Okay.
And a few have been on a couple. And then other people have just sort of naturally filtered in. Like we luckily haven't had to do too much work in like just approaching people. We've done that a bit, but things have naturally happened that the right people have sort of been in our scope, and that the vibe just felt like it made sense for the compilations. And they've evolved a little bit, but I feel like and people have told us at certain points that we should focus it more, but I felt like the whole point of it is to like just a mishmash of everything that we're into, and that we find what they love in it, and it can just be like a mix of stuff, like a mix for the sake of being a mix.
Yeah, that still kind of has like a cohesion to it, but like, you know, I guess the overlap is sort of the, you know, dusty tropical kind of flavors, I guess.
Yeah, I hear that. And I mean, like you released them in the summer, right? Like, is that,
slowly getting pushed back because we're like, the first one came out in June, and then the second one came out in July. This one came out in August. It was kind of like, you know, as everything starts stacking up more. And,
it's like taking 13, 14 months to make it. So before long, it'll be a Christmas compilation.
We're gonna definitely keep it in the summer.
Yeah, you definitely have to. Yeah, it's kind of nice because just from a fan perspective, I mean, labels probably shouldn't be doing too many releases in the summer because so many journalists and people take time off and stuff. But like a compilation is kind of nice. Same thing with like December. Like it's actually a good time of year to do like a compilation. So I like it as a music fan just because it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's like summer is like for me, it's lots of driving. It's lots of time on the patio or at the beach. And so like it's always been a really nice companion for me for that. The consistency though, I mean, the timing, and then for our fans who can't see it, our listeners right now who can't see it, but the artwork for all three compilations are the exact same template. Like they're the exact same format, different designs, different color schemes, but like they look like they should be like a series of books. It's like the Lord of the Rings or whatever. But like, so tell me about it a little bit more. Like at some point, maybe was it volume 1 where you decided we're going to do this, or was it volume 2? It's like, hey, let's copy the template of volume 1.
It's like a sort of a mix of a love of design, and you know, I've been like a big comic book collector and design book collector over the years. So I kind of, you know, it's my chance to sort of do cool little design series. But also in terms of the consistency, it's also correlates with a little bit of laziness.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, okay, well, this works, so I can do some like little alterations and jazz it up a bit. And yeah, like I think with that kind of consistency, I think the thing that sometimes is a little bit of a challenge is because I do like to evolve stuff time, but it's like, how do you evolve it where it makes sense and it's not like so rigid? I mean, some people, like, that's their brand, they can do that, they can just like do one thing one week and then something different the next. I think the way that Stereo Ferment in general kind of works is because we have been slowly evolving our sound in like different directions, and we kind of look at it like a little bit like a DJ set, like, how do you get from like, because the DJ culture is like super baked in with our label too.
Right.
So yeah, you kind of just look at it, if I do decide to change the style of like the design.
Yeah, I feel like you're warning me that it's going to change next summer. That's what you're trying. You're lubricating me right now. well,
yeah, Christmas compilation, different artwork entirely.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're ruining this. I wish I hadn't said anything.
I'll be back.
It's like anytime you tell an artist, like, I like this, I'm anticipating the next thing, then they're just going to completely go against that. Well, it's interesting. I mean, we've had a Geographic North is one of my favorite labels, and they have an emphasis on design as well. And they do this thing, I don't know if they still do it, they kind of do, where like they have like a series of like sort of like a template series, and they do like maybe 4 or 5 releases in that series, and then next year it's almost like a new season. That look and feel changes, but but they do another 4 or 5 in that series. So that's kind of a way of doing both,
I remember listening to that episode actually and taking notes from that, because I was like, that's kind of that particularly stuck with me in terms of how I think I like to approach it. Yeah.
Sure. We're gonna move on from artwork in a second, but I do have another question about it, because I always think of labels. You get to see the entire label often because of Bandcamp. When you go to Bandcamp, and I don't even think there would have been an example of this prior, because even in record stores, your records are scattered by genre or by the last name, but on Bandcamp you get to see the label as a whole. And so with your label, that's where you can see the aesthetic consistency. And so what happens, I mean, there are 1 or 2 exceptions in your catalog. What happens when an artist says, you know what, no, actually, I want to take a photo, I want to use my face, or I want to take a photograph of a painting or something, and you start to get sweaty palms or something, right? What happens there?
No, I've thought about that. I guess, I mean, I'm not like totally opposed to it. At the moment, everything sort of just works. Like, people that have approached us to do a release, or that we've approached, it's like because they want that kind of.
That's right. Yes.
That
good for you. Yeah.
Package. But having said that, if for whatever reason someone did, never closed off to anything in particular, but I think that generally people we work with, it's like a collaborative, like, oh yeah, we're coming to your platform, we want you on our platform, how can we like make it all together? Yeah.
So what he's saying is it hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened yet, lucky.
It does.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I guess
it's pleasant, nice to hear, but we'll watch out.
That's right. Yeah, don't ask. Yeah. Well, I, as a music fan, I mean, I can be just scrolling in my feed, and one of your releases can pop up in my peripheral, with the exception of like 1 or 2, but like most of your releases can pop up. Definitely the Fermented Grooves. and I know it's from you guys. And that's like on the far end of the extreme. We have other labels that just pop their logo in the top right corner, and it's very subtle. But I think that, that's really powerful if you can get to a place. And again, a lot of creatives don't like to be beholden to parameters, but if you can get to a place where people like me can spot you a mile away and say, I know I'm going to like that, I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, I think like parameters are super healthy in creativity, in art, it's, not, I don't know, like what.
Like when I'm scrolling around Bandcamp personally, I think it's super helpful. Like I'll see something that looks familiar, catches my eye, and I'm not even sure why at first. And I'll click, I'm like, oh yeah, this label or this artist. Like you start to like, I've checked this out before, but haven't checked out newer stuff yet or whatever. Yeah. But it's huge. Like the design aspect is like, especially in that bottom section below, like the recommended section.
Yes.
Or when you like go kind of tag hopping, like I'll just go on the tag. Wow.
Yeah.
The design is huge.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I won't click on something because the design is kind of lame, and maybe that's the best release ever. But
I know. I often wonder that too. I'm like, this is so ugly. I don't want to click on it. But what happened?
You're gonna waste those precious seconds.
I know. Yeah. So what is let's move to consistency of genre of sound. So many labels are so reluctant to say they have a sound, but do you guys have a sound? You kind of alluded to having a sound for the compilations, the summer comps, but do you guys have a Stereo Ferment sound?
I'm not even sure if we do for the summer. Like we did like this dusty tropical kind of Balearic vibe on the summer comps, but then we started to get some more harder kind of Arab, like hard Italo kind of vibes that on newer ones. Maybe someone else would say that it just sounds like us, but maybe we're too close to it to realize that.
Yeah.
And then we put up the Okote EP that was a bit more like kind of breaks and left field kind of vibes. So like we're open to other things, but if it somehow speaks to us, then I can't tell you why something would or wouldn't. But
yeah, there's kind of like what is it with the overlapping circle Venn diagram?
Yeah,
is that what it is? Yeah. There's kind of like a rough Venn diagram of sort of texture, overall kind of vibe, but it's not like necessarily genre specific. We just kind of know, because as DJs, as both of us, we both have like a pretty genre fluid sound that is also super specific, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So and like, because that's kind of how we met. We were both playing at a festival back in 2018, and we were both like booked on the lineup. It was my first ever festival, and he played the day before. Brad played the day before, and I heard like his set from over the field, and like he played like 3 different songs that I was going to play in my set that I've never heard anyone else play out, let alone in the same set. It was just, it was like one of what the fuck kind of moments. And I ran up to him. I was like, hey, we're going to talk. We're going to talk after this. And so that's kind of like just that uncanny, similar taste in music is what drives the label. So we'll like either come across something that we really like or get something submitted, and we're just a good barometer or like gauge on kind of like if this works. Like I don't think we've ever disagreed.
No, I don't think so.
At least
like our tastes are the consistency, I guess. Like
yes,
yeah.
Filter is the consistency. I'm sure other people can then. We can't hear it exactly because we're too close to it, but someone else could say, oh, this sounds like Stereo Ferment, even if it's like very different vibes happening. But it just filtered through what we like, and that just gives us a sound of some kind.
Well, yeah. And I think that to me is where, some people argue the existence of labels. Why do they need to exist? And I think this is one of the things I love so much about labels is really that individual or the group of people, their taste, And like you said, like you guys met each other at a festival because it's like when somebody wears like a t-shirt of an obscure band, like, you know, you're going to be friends with them. And so like that connection, and that's what I love about labels. And I think the proof is in the pudding, because for you guys, I mean, whatever the genre is, I can't necessarily just pick another artist or another label in that genre and like it. But you guys did a Spotify playlist that is not just your music, right? Like, it's just music you like. And I can easily listen to that on all of the songs on it, or shuffle, and I will enjoy it. And it just shows me that I think I like your taste. Another example is there's this Japanese retailer who sells shirts, and he also sells records and stuff. I follow him on Instagram, and like, I like the running shoes, the sneakers he posts. I like the books he posts, and I like the music he posts. So like, I guess we have the same taste. And I just think that's an incredible thing for music fans to be like, oh, this label, I think we have the same taste. We probably have the same political views, and this, you know what I mean? Like, all these things. I like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say my favorite labels are things where, like, I just like and respect their taste. Not so much that the label has a super consistent, narrow, dialed-in sound.
That's right.
Like, they have decent taste, and I just sort of follow them and like am along for that journey.
Yeah, I think that there is like a more like kind of global, like a nice sort of communal connection that comes with all that, you know, because I know through just labels that I follow and admire and, you know, model off, like, I've developed relationships with them just through loving it. And, you know, like, yeah, you develop like genuine good friendships.
Totally.
Through this music. And
let me pressure you for parameters, because you probably do have to say no to some things, even if you do like it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, definitely. And it's usually like, we don't, you know, butt heads against that. We just kind of know we'll get stuff sent to us by friends, or even like artists that we've kind of hit up and be like, oh, hey, do you want to be on the comp? And then they've sent something through, and we're like, oops. So that's not the vibe. It can kind of can be a little bit awkward sometimes, but
especially if you've hit someone up and you've asked them for an edit. Oh, I like your work. Can you send us an edit? And they do, and you're like, ooh.
I know. I honestly, I've been on both ends of that. I have like hired session musicians because I've been a big fan of them, and then the stuff that they sent me was just like not their best work, and it's so awkward. But then I've also been hired to mix stuff because people like my stuff, and then they don't like it on their own music, and they're like, no, that's not what we had in mind. And it is weird. It's an awkward situation.
Yeah, it's never a guaranteed. It's never plug and play. You know, these things.
Yeah.
It's fun sometimes. Then you realize there's this kind of mismatch in how people perceive you, I guess, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I had to send a few hard emails.
I always by Brad first. I'm like, how does this sound? Does it sound like I'm being an asshole?
Well, luckily you can get ChatGPT to write rejection emails now for you. Right?
That a lot.
Instead of ghosting someone. So despite the accent that we can hear, our listeners can hear, you guys are from Canada, which is nice. A little geographic nepotism on the show, which is nice. But does being Canadian or being from Toronto, does that play into your identity at all? Or does it not matter, especially like in the digital realm?
I don't know that it really makes a difference. Like, we definitely champion stuff from our community, but we're a very multicultural community where more than half the people here aren't even born here. Yes. So it's already creative, interesting, like inspiring melting pot.
Yes.
So I'm not sure that it matters where we live so much. It's just like trying to champion the community you're in and just finding stuff you like regardless of its kind of geographic locale.
Yeah. There's not a definitive, like, you know, quota to promote local stuff, right? It's just kind of what works. Yeah.
But you will take those Canadian grants if they're given to you.
Yeah.
They're hard to get, but yes.
They are hard to get. I know.
Haven't yet to our last conversation. But it's been nice to be able to survive without it so far, but definitely want to get in on that.
That's funny. Wait, did you say, Brad, did you say like half of people in Toronto weren't born in Toronto? Is that an actual stat?
Yeah, I believe like I read recently, for a while it was like, I think 40 to 45%.
Yeah.
And I read recently it's gone above 50%.
That's unbelievable. Like weren't born in Canada or weren't specifically just born in Toronto?
Weren't born in Canada.
That's incredible. I don't doubt that one bit. I don't doubt that one bit. But that's interesting. I mean, that could really speak to the music, right? And that could really, I mean, especially because I hear in your compilations, in your music, I hear so many different genres. You would almost use the term world music, which is like an outdated term, but like it is like, honestly, like it's almost, I don't know if this is shoehorning, but it is like a good a sonic representation of Toronto in a weird way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like, if you were to describe the sound, it would be kind of the I guess multicultural intersections of certain genres, disco, house, boogie and whatnot. But yeah, definitely Toronto being such a multicultural melting pot, it helps spice it up. But I think we also just both had a general love for music from all around the world.
Yeah.
Before that, but we're both not from Toronto either, so
that's probably why I liked you. So speaking of of digital, I follow you mostly on Bandcamp. Have you guys thought about? And I think everything I've purchased has been digital. Do you guys? Where do you land on the physical spectrum here? Is that something, are you sticking with digital? Is that like something that you're intentional about? Or, I mean, I guess it's more of a question of your audience and do your audience want 12 inches or tapes or CDs? So what are your thoughts on physical?
Like we're open to physical. I guess there's a few barriers of entry. Like there's the fact that I feel like we want to grow to a certain size where we know we can like sell 300 to 500 records for sure.
Point. Yeah.
The other barrier entry is like the insane costs of pressing vinyl post pandemic.
Yes.
Like with my own music, I pressed a few records in the past, and like the cost now is just more insane than ever. So
yeah,
again, we have to be very confident we can unload these things and not have like hundreds of records sitting in the back of our apartments that never go unsold.
Well, that is kind of a rite of passage, though. Everybody needs to have a couple boxes.
Well, I've had that with like DVD. I used to run a BMX DVD zine years and years ago.
No way.
So
okay. So yeah, as long as you've had one of your projects in a box, yeah.
But we're getting mighty close to it though.
Cool.
I think the goal this year was to do it, but we basically had two goals at the beginning of this year. One was to kind of like get into tour the label, like showcase the label around the world as much as we could. And we managed to go down to Colombia at the beginning of the year and have a possible Mexico tour in the works at the moment, which is super exciting. But and then the other goal was to like go into the physical realm. I think next year is definitely going to be the year, but we kind of split the difference by. Oops, sorry, my phone alarm went off.
That's all right.
We came into it with a bit of merch this year.
Yeah, that looks great. That's a really good thing you kind of alluded to, Brad. Like just the idea of like growing your audience digitally before you take that leap. I think actually a lot of labels could learn from that so that you get to a point where it's like, listen, if 5% of our audience is going to buy physical, which might be like a pretty reasonable stat, if 5% of our audience is going to buy physical and we want to sell 200 units, well then like let's just reverse engineer that math. How many supporters or followers do we need before we press 200 records?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think we're getting close. And next year we considered like doing a split 12-inch of like a couple of our releases together to kind of get things going. So I think we're getting close, but I don't want to wade in those waters too soon.
Yeah, we've had enough people start to knock on the door though for it. So that's like a good indicator.
Yeah.
Where they're like,
well,
are you guys pressing vinyl? So I was like, all right.
Yeah. Well, I'll sign up for one for sure. What about streaming? Like I said, for me and your label, I follow you on Bandcamp, so it's a Bandcamp thing. What kind of success or lack of success have you guys had on streaming? I haven't really even checked out your releases on streaming.
So yeah, streaming was super secondary in the beginning. So like we were like basically solely Bandcamp focused. We were putting stuff up on all the DSPs.
Sure.
And then up until basically the beginning of this year, started to sink our teeth into the streaming stuff. So kind of spent a bunch of time learning Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff, and have this year like with the couple of releases that we've had, I've had pretty good success with it through running the Facebook ads, better than anything we had from not doing it, essentially.
Okay, cool. That's good. Because
it's such a niche kind of sound. It's even hard to find like playlists, like through Submit Hub. We would get on the odd little playlist. 1,000 followers, and that was great, and maybe give us a couple hundred streams or something.
Sure.
But since running the ads and like running ads for our own playlists and all that kind of stuff, definitely found like way more engagement. So that's kind of like where we're starting to build out from now. Yeah.
That's really great to hear. I'm doing the same thing. I'm running an ad experiment right now with one of our sponsors, and I think it's there's some pretty big impacts. I mean, you can spend money doing it, but if you get followers and like lifetime fans, it's worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, I mean, even the main campaign that I experimented on it with was with my own release in through the summer, and I think spent like about $1,000 on it.
Wow.
Because we have pretty low overhead in the rest of the table because all the design.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
Basically, marketing is like that's the main cost. And so, we spent about $1,000 for about $350 a song. So I just like released it. Also released it differently on Spotify and all the streaming platforms. Like I'll do it kind of more traditionally through Bandcamp, like one single or two, depending how big the release is, and then the rest of the release. Whereas on the stream platform, because like no one's really watching too closely, I'm just dropping them out as singles every month to kind of like jack that algorithm up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, I had a 3-song EP, and then released them all, month by month as a single. About a $350 budget for each song in marketing, and it's been like I went from having like 80 monthly listeners or 100 monthly listeners to like 6,000 over the course of 3 months, which is like a huge leap.
Yeah.
And then
have you had an increase in followers as well on Spotify? Great.
I think it was like about 100, something like that, to almost 1,000 now. So well, that's incredible. And I think 1,000 followers is a big deal because those 1,000 are going to get your every single new song on their release radar moving forward. So that's a kind of a good long-term investment. So that, like, are you pretty happy with how, what you got for your $1,000? Yeah, because I think, like it's not a direct, return on investment in terms of like streaming royalties and whatnot, but I think the overall, yeah, I'm super happy with it. Like,
and have you,
yeah,
have you built like do you now have like what do you call it? Like an audience in on Facebook ads? Like, do you think that you've been refining that target?
Oh yeah, yeah, big time. And like, I think one of the biggest, one of the coolest results from it was basically, because we've never really had a lot of like getting placed on decent playlists on Spotify and whatnot. And just from running the ads, curators on their own Instagram have been adding us to really cool playlists. So I've actually gotten, just not even submitting to Submit Hub and all that stuff, organically through the ads.
Great.
And like, the curators would message me and say, "Oh, I love this. Put it on the playlist of like 6,000 followers in Turkey," or whatever, like just really, really interesting reach that has like, changed the trajectory a little bit.
Yeah, I would say that MidHub has like had seriously diminishing returns for us over time, that we're finding that like the playlists that had any pull at all really wanted you to be in like this micro specific kind of genre that they were like, okay,
exact vibe,
like even something close to it. I would submit stuff that definitely would work in the playlist, but it wasn't that exact. So
I know.
It just didn't work for us anymore. It wasn't worth the money we were spending.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really, I found that too. I 100% have found that too. And that's why I'm kind of been experimenting with some other outlets and different ways of doing things. And I find that really interesting. And I think it'd be really interesting to see if these, like now that, I don't know if you're still running the ads, I don't know if you're still spending money, but like if you're not, it'd be interesting to see how long, ideally forever, that 6,000 number lasts, right? Like if it drops back down to 60, then that sucks, but if those people are perpetually, and those playlists are perpetually listening to you, then gosh, then it would definitely be worth $1,000.
So what I found from it, so it has dropped a little bit down to about 4,500 over the course. I stopped spending about, like, this is all kind of recently, so I stopped spending about I want to say a month or two ago, and then everything, like the trajectory kept going, because what also happens is that it triggered all the Spotify algorithm playlists, so I got on the Discover Weekly and the Release Radar and all that, so it really, the actual ads generated probably about collectively across the whole EP, probably about I want to say like close to 10,000 streams, right?
Okay.
Whatever.
That's good.
And since then, all the algorithmic playlists have it's generated about 40,000 streams. So just over 40,000 streams.
Wow. And roughly you can almost say, like, I don't know, it's changing, but like, I feel like to make $1,000 back, you need about 100,000 streams. And that's, that's kind of like, I know we're talking currencies here and stuff, but like, so potentially you have already made 40% of your investment back.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, our distributor takes a huge chunk, unfortunately.
Okay.
But the way that I look at it as like the streaming platforms in general, I kind of look at it as like a bit of a funnel towards, the like kind of like a business card, I guess.
Yep, that's a good way to look at it. Sure.
Yeah, like unless you're making, it's sort of like a billboard cost, and then hopefully pluck off a couple of like super fans from that and places and build up like a little bit of following of places that you can maybe tour to, because I mean all the revenue that is can actually make some money is like through gigs and merch and stuff like that. So that's kind of the not you're expecting to make
No, but I'm glad we went on that little tangent, because I've been doing it at the same time as you, and I appreciate the insights and the transparency, because a lot of people, it's so easy to burn through money on Facebook ads, and but I'm kind of I'm doing it right now through Hyped It, and I'm enjoying like building that audience, and I'm enjoying and I've set aside a budget for it, so to be able to see it. To see it grow and to see it see those numbers grow. The playlist likes are growing, the followers are growing, monthly listeners are growing. It's kind of fun. So yeah, I'm glad you shared that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you played around with Chartmetric site?
No, I'm familiar with them, but no, I haven't. Like for ads?
No, not for ads. Just for general data collection.
Okay.
And I found like it maybe can be a little bit of a novelty, but I think it has like a lot of really great insight into it for just kind of, if you care about that stuff, like the back end data stuff, which people don't and whatever, but I kind of speak out about it a little bit.
Do you think you could see like a playlist that you mentioned, a non-Spotify playlist, pick up your track from this campaign and that you connect with them for future label releases?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
That's great.
Some is specific and then, but some definitely, and I'll like reach out to them. Like I always, if anyone puts us on their platform, I'll always like reach out.
Sure.
Like I think it's important.
So let's talk about marketing as we're kind of moving in that direction. I'm not embedded into this scene or genre as you guys. I'm a fan, but like from a distance. And so forgive me if I'm like a little naive here. But I'm curious about like the DJ world and like, is this like a part of your marketing strategy? Like how do you like, are you interested in getting music to DJs? Is it strictly to music fans, or like, do you want people to be putting your stuff in sets? Like, explain that world to me a little bit.
That's like a huge part of it, is like kind of DJs getting tracks, and like especially early on before people even know about them or they're released, and like starting to generate buzz before like the track's even announced.
Okay.
Like people just are just trying to like, Shazam everything and like figure out what that banger is and have no clue at all. A good network of DJs that we're definitely slowly building, who like we give early release stuff to, or some that we just give stuff to like just before the release, and like they can start to play it and generate buzz before it's even out. I think is really helpful for especially in the music world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely all coincides. Label DJs.
So then, I'm curious about like, is your genre, is your scene more about the tracks than it is about the artists? Like, I get that impression. Is that true in any way, that the artists aren't as front and center as, say, like a rapper or a singer-songwriter?
A little bit of both. It kind of depends. Maybe in like early days, because you can be in the like you're like a sort of not well-known artist, and just have this killer track, and then that's it. That's it. I mean, I guess the same in like
any music. Any music these days, have a single big moment.
True, that's true.
But there's definitely people that like follow labels over artists in that kind of industry, but like then there's also definitely like artists that people follow closely once they're kind of more established and stuff. I don't know. I
would say the artist does. It does matter. Like especially to other DJs. Like they're super curious and they're gonna like follow up and see what that person's doing. But even casual fans will like ask us about music we're playing, and then ask us about mention it later, how they've been enjoying that artist's catalog. So I think there's more to it than. I don't think we're in this realm like an ambient kind of playlist where people literally have no idea what any of it is, beats, and any of that stuff. I think there's more artist recognition.
Yeah.
You're
right.
It's not the top level of artist recognition as far as music in general goes, but I think it's important.
Yeah. And I would imagine the artists would be pushing for that too.
Yeah, for sure, because it helps like excel their career and gig opportunities and all that kind of stuff. So it's column A, Wilson column B.
So let me ask you before we go about the two of you. Like, how does that work? How does this relationship work? Do you guys have like individual responsibilities, and I mean, we talked about your shared passion, which I think is obviously essential for doing this. There's, I don't know, I'm kind of curious like how many like duo labels we have out there. I mean, probably the majority would be an individual, and then there's a lot of labels, of course, that have like multiple staff. So talk to me a little bit about your dynamic of the two of you.
Yeah, so I do everything.
I don't want to like break you up here. Like I've already ruined the summer compilation, so I don't want to cause a divorce.
So like I tend to do all the design and like kind of more marketing, like the ad stuff and whatnot, and then Brad does the books and helps like when we're doing tours and stuff. He does like a lot of the scheduling. He's good at that. He's got way more experience in all that.
Yeah, make playlists too. I don't know, whatever like random tasks kind of come up. Like it's like his brainchild in the beginning, and I'm like happy to be involved and stuff. So it's slightly tilted towards Caden. But yeah, we kind of just it's a case by case basis. So we don't have there's some defined tasks and some open things that we just throw back and forth. Hey, can you do this? Like, can you get all of our mixes up on YouTube now and figure out how that works? So like, I just figure that out one week. There's like, lots of various little tasks that come up that we see who's ever free that week, really.
What about well, actually, it's funny. Like you talk about some of the benign stuff like YouTube. Like there is a moment in every label when it's like, I think we should probably do YouTube or whatever it is. I think we should probably do XYZ. Who's going to do this? This is annoying. It's probably, it's a long term, like it's good in the long term, but that Saturday afternoon of uploading is annoying. So yeah.
Literally what he did yesterday.
Like the last 3 days straight.
Well, I don't know if you saw the alert, but I just subscribed to your channel this afternoon. So it's not all in waste.
See, there we go.
There's one. No, that's great. So it is nice to be able to split like 50-50 some of those benign tasks. What about A&R?
Yeah,
that sort of happens organically. Like we're not like, the label is largely a vehicle for our own music, to be honest. But and then for other things that we really like, and we're not like a lot of times we come across something we like or an artist we like, or someone just sends us a track. It does happen pretty organically. We're not like spending hours and hours and hours like hunting people down and trying to like convince them to release music. But
sometimes it's even we're like, we'll get excited by a track that's like, oh man, we're going to work on our own music here. So,
that's right. Yeah.
It can be a little push and pull with that. So it's good. We're super grateful that people like show interest and have been sending us stuff or like, are willing to work with us. But yeah, it's definitely a bit of a vehicle for our own thing. So we're never like concerned if there's like a little bit of a dead zone with like submissions. We're like, all right, sweet, we can,
like we'd rather work into a release and make sure we do it right than like have a release every month or even twice a month like I see some labels do, which is insane. Like we keep it to like 3-4 a year max. If 6 months go by, which we did have between the fall and the spring, we had like a 6-month gap. That's fine. That's fine. And now we have a bunch of stuff to put out.
Oh, that's good. Well, yeah, I was kind of curious about that. I mean, even just as a fan, like I know I see some stuff come out and then it's like a little bit of a quiet period. So you do have some sort of responsibility to like staying in touch. Like obviously you're saying that fall to spring, like you were aware that you had kind of gone dark and you identified as that as kind of a problem.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we definitely don't want to have that big of a
3 months is usually a good gap.
4 months max is
quarterly.
Is probably quarterly feels good.
Yeah,
and
no, that's smart.
Yeah, but like because like events is like a huge part of our running tours, so we're able to stay active locally through that. Sure. But I can see,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
series like monthly-ish we do. We also do like every month or two we have a guest kind of curator do a mix too. So we're like pretty active at all times, and if we can kind of keep that kind of consistency with that schedule and releases every 3 months, that's ideal.
Yeah, no, that's healthy. I think that's healthy. So I don't want you to change at all. I like what you're doing and how you do it. But what does the future look like for you ideally? I mean, we've talked about it a little bit here and there about physical and whatnot, and we talked about the design evolution potentially. Is it keeping this pace going quarterly? Is it like, do you have something else up your sleeve? Is there an ideal, type of label that you want to become?
I guess like one inspiration. I'm inspired by some of like this labels like Dar Disco is like an example where like just like a duo who runs a label like we do, and they've also used it as a vehicle to kind of heighten their DJ careers as well.
Right.
And as the labels go and their bookings have gotten better, and just starting to tour all over the place. And so ideally, we also use the label as a way to heighten our DJ careers and get better gigs that way, and more consistent gigs and more tours as well.
Yeah, so that's kind of, but also at the same time, really want to focus on like platforming artists and like helping like launch their careers, because we know we have a launch pad label, with Small, and I would love to kind of any artists that we're working with, be able to get signed to bigger labels and all that kind of stuff. So it's like there's that element. Like I think just kind of what we're doing is just like chugging along. Just a release every quarter, maybe start doing one every 2 months if we can.
Easy, bud.
If we can find it, like if someone else gets involved in the label at one point, like maybe part-time or something. I would love to get to a point actually where we can like employ someone part-time or something to kind of just lighten the load a little bit. We're not quite there, but we definitely could get there.
But yeah, if there's like music we like and someone's like send us something inspiring, like we want to do our best to like get that out as soon as possible. Like we had an Irish producer named Mandalist we just released a single on like a month after the compilation we released. Like that's the quickest we've had 2 releases in the same month, but like the music is so good and needs to be heard that we just made it a priority to get that music out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, even though we had like 2-3 other releases in the backlog, but he was super excited and normally I just be like, whoa, cool your jets. Like just wait a bit. But it is like just too much of a banger track, and I'm glad we did. Like, I got played in front of 10,000 people like a week ago, which is like that's probably milestones for us at like this massive festival in Ireland. So like little things like that, that's kind of the they're the little goals that we're going for.
Quick question: when a track gets played at a festival like that, like how is that good for the label? Like how do you get fans to connect with that? Like, I mean, do you get paid for that in any way, or like how does that work?
I just think like the exposure, like there's a certain unknown, there's like a mystique to like hearing something amazing that you don't know what it is, or something's not released yet and some DJs are playing it like that, and people are like, what's that track? What is that? And details start to emerge, and then this buzz that kind of from that, this excitement,
frenzy, it's like, a couple of like, hot DJs like playing around, and then and people are trying to Shazam it and it's not showing up, and that kind of thing.
So that's part of the culture.
Yeah, big time.
I see.
Everyone It's going all the time.
That's awesome. Oh, I didn't realize that. That is pretty cool. Do DJs ever like post their set list somewhere?
Yeah. A lot of like DJs will like post their set lists, and we also send out to a lot of like there's a big sort of DJ radio culture with Worldwide FM and NTS and all those kinds of things. We'll send them, or and every label will send them like exclusives, and it won't be available for a couple of months. And if there's a really banging track, and like I've heard tracks on NTS shows before, and then like emailed, like they've announced the name of the person. I've like gone and emailed the person like, hey, have you got that track? And sometimes I'll give it to you. And
that's so crazy. I could never conceive the idea of like releasing, like getting promotion for something that isn't available to the public. In my world, that's just so what a wasted opportunity.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah, that's right. No, you can't buy this.
And you definitely see people like Fortet or whatever just post like these tiny clips. Like after other DJs have been playing maybe a new track of his, he posts like this tiny clip of his Ableton session with like 10 seconds of the track. It's like, oh, that's your track. What's going on? Like there's just like this level of
that's
excitement
cool.
And that can really help.
And geekery. Yes, there's a little bit of geekery in there.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad that you have that in your community. I think that's so beneficial. That's awesome, guys. I love the label. I really love the label, and I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. Please don't stop. If anything, just for me, I would if you are taking requests, I would love maybe a 20-minute mix of Honeybee. I think that's probably the best song I've ever heard in the past 10 years. So maybe like, if you don't mind, just press your first pressing would be like however much time you can fit on 112-inch, 26 minutes of Honeybee. Just if you don't mind.
Just like that vocal loop for 20 minutes. Nothing else.
That would be all I need.
If there's anyone we owe it to, it's you, because
thank you.
Honestly, started the label in around May of 2020. And I've done a couple of little things, and then I went into Google. How do I start a record label? And it's like, you were literally the only thing that
good.
I all your videos and listen to your podcast, and so like props to you, because like so much of like everything that, like even press kit templates, like I still use like those.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I don't need your thanks. I just need that track. Just honestly, I love. Well, that first little EP that you guys did, I like completely burned through that digital copy back in 2020, and I love it so much. Anyway, congrats, guys. I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Scott.